Hi, and welcome back to the Ageless Pet Podcast with Dr. Bissoni and Dr. Varco. Today we're going to talk about omega-3s in dogs and cats and what the science actually says. Omega-3 fatty acids are everywhere. Fish oil capsules, pet food treats, supplements promising better joints, shinier coats, healthier hearts. But what does the science actually say about all of this? Are they good? How much is safe? Let's just go through and break it down. So, Dr. Bissoni, what are omega-3 fatty acids? Everybody talks about them.
Yeah, I don't know what they are.
But what are they?
No clue. No, just kidding. So omega-3 fatty acids are polyunsaturated fatty acids, and that means that they have double bonds in their chemical structure. Locations of those bonds is how we define an omega-3 and how they get their names. But more importantly, the things that we think about omega-3 fatty acids are ALA, or alpha-linoleic acid, and these are found in your typical flax seeds, chia seeds, canola oil, rose hips, things
Walnuts,
like that.
because they look like the brain.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Good for your brain. Yeah, so those kind of things. And then the EPA and the DHA, so the eicosapentaenoic acids found in fish oil, and the
Good
DHA.
job.
I know.
Right? Really nice.
This next one I might stumble over. Docosahexaenoic acid, also found in fish oil. So the fish is really the important source of the EPAs, of course, and EPA and DHA, and those are found in, salmon, cod liver oil, herring, sardines, anchovies. So kind of those fatty fish is where we find all those things in there. So
I think it's important to note that dogs and cats don't convert ALA very efficiently, so they're not going to get omegas from ALA. So some people will still supplement and put flaxseed in the food and all of that. But the way to really get it is going to be your EPA and DHA from marine sources. Yeah,
so I think that's been shown multiple times that they aren't able to absorb it as well. We can go into that in a little bit. But unless you have a vegetarian animal, so I do see birds and rabbits, and we do recommend flaxseed oil for those, because for some reason they don't naturally eat fish in their diet. Poor rabbits going through the fish. But anyway, so we'll use flaxseed oil for those guys. But for our carnivore type species, no, we don't do that.
Yeah, and there was a good study in dogs that compared supplementation with krill oil versus flaxseed oil, and after 6 weeks, only the krill oil group saw significant increase in their omega-3 index.
Right.
Yeah, so like you said, the source is really important.
Yeah, and that kind of sucks because there's, obviously we're in California and there's a lot of vegetarians and vegans, and that's unfortunate, but it's the truth that they do not absorb that as well as we would like them to. So even if you're giving them lots of flaxseed oil, walnut oil, or whatever, chia seeds, it might be beneficial for other factors, but it's not going to really hit your omega-3s very much. So
so the key point here is that omegas matter, and according to the College of Veterinary Internal Medicine, and decades of veterinary research, we know that EPA and DHA are essential for neurologic and visual development, because that DHA goes to the nervous system and the retina. It plays a major role in inflammation control, and then it influences immune function, self-signaling, gene expression, and it competes with omega-6s to produce less inflammatory eicosanoids. So in simple terms, EPA shifts the body towards a calmer inflammatory response, and DHA is critical for the brain, nervous system, and retina.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too. Historically, I think veterinarians always used omega-3s for skin. When I got out of school, it was skin.
Always.
That's all it was. We had no idea about anything else. And then as time gone on, some of these other benefits, like you just mentioned, the anti-inflammatory and brain health, kidney health, things that we're going to discuss later. I think we found out a lot later than that's more. I'm not going to say more important, but I mean, if you have a skin problem and you're not giving omega-3 fatty acids, that's some low-hanging fruit there. I mean, that's
it's like number one.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like, why even bother? Start to giving the omega-3s right away. So, anyways, those are the big ones.
Yeah, and I think something that we were talking about earlier is omega-6s versus omega-3s. So if you want to touch on that, because, that's a big one.
Yeah, so omega-6s, our pets are getting plenty of omega-6s anyways in their diet. So their diets, a lot of seed oils or oils have omega-3, 6s, as we just talked about, with like flaxseed oil, for example, but sunflower oil, etc. And meats, have omega-6s in there as well. So that's kind of a thing, because you really want the omega-3s to omega-6 to omega-3 ratios to be somewhere between 5 to 1 and 10 to 1, right? That's the numbers.
Yeah.
And again, don't worry about omega-6s, because your dog has plenty omega-6s.
Yeah, and that's the more inflammatory messenger, and then the omega-3 is the less inflammatory. So the goal of supplementation is you want to increase your EPA and DHA in the cell membrane. Right. And in order to do that, you have to give it every day.
Yes, not just
lifelong,
occasionally, forever. And this brings me, I think it brings me to a point where it's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine when I see supplements sold for dogs that say omega-3, 6, 9.
Right.
I'm like, we don't need to supplement 6 and 9.
Right.
And it's 100% just a marketing thing, either a marketing thing or somebody doesn't know what they're doing when they're making it. But I'm assuming it's a marketing thing for our little human brains that are like, oh, omega-6s are, for us, and we got to do this.
It says omega, so it's got to be good.
It's got to be good. But no, you just need omega-3s. And if they have 6 and 9s in there, then they're putting in other things that are not fish oil. So that's really important. So look for that and whatnot. So that's...
Yeah, and the amount of EPA and DHA is more important than the ratio. So we want to make sure, and we'll talk about dosing, that the total EPA and DHA, and some supplements if you're targeting just general health, but there are some supplements targeted specifically for cognition and cognitive health, and those will tend to have a little bit of a higher DHA in their ratio. But in general, you want to calculate out for the total EPA and DHA per day.
Yeah, and that, another thing too, we're talking about cognitive or whatever, or even OA, osteoarthritis, is so many of these things, unfortunately, we start like, oh, my dog has some cognitive issues, let me start EPA and DHA, or DHA mainly, or whatever. But obviously prevention is better than treatment. So if we can start treating these earlier, and that's what we were talking about, lifelong versus, in the end stages of their life.
Right, and be proactive, not reactive. You have better outcomes if you can start early. And we just know that there's so many benefits, so many human studies and veterinary studies on the benefits, and we're going to break down. And if you know that your dog got diagnosed with arthritis, don't wait for them to get worse.
Right.
If they have early kidney disease, don't wait for them to get worse.
Right.
Just, dog has a murmur, may not mean cardiac disease, but start. And the dosing is going to vary based on the condition. So your dose for skin is going to be different than for joint, which is going to be different for kidney, etc. So some of the doses overlap, but in general, there'll be a little bit of variation there.
Yeah. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to start mentioning this. Maybe it'll be later, about supplements that have multiple different things in there, and they'll say on the front, or even dog foods that say omega-3s.
Right.
The question is, how much do they have in there?
Is it a therapeutic dose? Because a lot of, case in point, glucosamine chondroitin in the dog food.
Right.
And then people are like, well, they're getting it in their food, but if you calculate out the actual dose, it's not a therapeutic dose.
Right.
So, and you see that a lot in these diets. So that's a great point.
Yeah, it drives me a little bananas when I see some of these things, especially when it's like a combination product and it has, fish oil and glucosamine and CoQ10, and then you look at then you look at the back of it. And of course, I'm particularly referring to some products that I get on my Instagram feed all the time. And I turn around and I look at the product and how much they have in it, and I'm like, that is not a therapeutic dose. You'd have to give your dog like 10 of those to get a therapeutic dose. So it's just important to pay attention to what we're doing. We will be talking about dosing here. So just pay attention. Just don't be sucked in reading labels and whatnot. So
and so we know that omegas reduce inflammation. There was in humans, omega-3s are known for their anti-inflammatory effects for the heart, cognitive benefits. And then there was a meta-analysis of 38 randomized controlled studies in humans, and it found that supplementation with EPA and DHA was associated with reduced cardiovascular mortality, non-fatal heart attacks, and lower rates of cardiac events. And then another study showed that omega-3s reduced markers of inflammation such as interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein in patients with heart disease.
Yeah. So those are really, really, it's just it's my favorite supplement. It's like everyone should be taking
Everybody.
this. It's like, why are we not taking this?
I know.
So, some of the other therapeutic benefits too, a systematic review of 23 studies, 20 in dogs and 3 in cats, the EPA and DHA supplementation with diseases such as allergic dermatitis, heart disease, lymphoma, dry eye, arthritis. They found benefits in all of these conditions. So that's, such a wide range. I mean, if you're talking about like a snake oil or something.
Right,
it's fish oil, not snake oil, but
it kind of sounds like the perfect supplement, right? Like
it does.
It just sounds like it does everything.
I mean, look at it. It's like cancer, dry eye, arthritis, heart disease, kidney disease, just any inflammation, in general, and the studies have borne that out. So.
Yeah, and the root cause of disease is inflammation.
Inflammation.
I mean, it's just it is a first line supplement for anything.
For everything and anything, yeah. And aging, right? Aging is inflammation. So it's kind of an important thing.
Yeah, and helps, there's a cat study. Yes, cats. Cats. Joint health and osteoarthritis in cats was also studied, and in a randomized double-blinded crossover study of 16 cats. I know it's not a high number, but 16. You're lucky, right? With naturally occurring osteoarthritis, which is another big one. A lot of these studies are done where they will experimentally create it. So this was naturally occurring osteoarthritis. They showed that supplementing with omega-3s, the owners perceived improvements in the mobility, right? So the walking, they were less stiff, they were jumping, and they interacted more. They had better interactions with their cats.
Right. Yeah, we don't get a lot of cat studies, and we're going to be talking about cat dosing in a little bit too, because cats dosing is a little different than our dog dosing too.
Yeah.
So, and then we already talked about it a little bit, but joints, that's a whole thing there. Our OA, we had a podcast on OA supplements. I'm going to do it earlier, but
a lot of good studies with omega-3s and joint health, mobility. A lot of those studies were therapeutic diet, so kibble, right? Which is kind of funny because you have a pro-inflammatory product with an anti-inflammatory product.
Right, exactly.
But even in those dogs, these omega-3s were so powerful that feeding these omega-3 enriched diets showed improvement on like force plate analysis and other mobility markers, and that says a lot for those omega-3s, that it can override not only the diet, that it's the vehicle that it's being delivered, but also the condition that it's treating. Right.
And it's a crazy thought too to think about. We have again, what do we call it, the glucosamines, chondroitins, all that kind of stuff they use for joint. But if you're going to talk about something that's the most evidence-based, if your dog has arthritis or you want to prevent the arthritis, big dog, you're going to have some problems with the hips or the knees, this has got to be tier 1.
I mean, there's a lot of good research. There was a good paper, Steve Mailer was the author, and it was about omega-3s. It was his specific product, which I think is really important. You want to use products that have studies that, and it was an osteoarthritis one, and lameness scored improved, pain, range of motion, and over a period of a few weeks, they started to see these improvements. And they tested the blood tests, which we'll get into, the IFATs, inflammatory fatty acid target score, before and after as well, so they can monitor omega-3 to omega-6 in the whole blood. So that was a really good study talking about arthritis. And they did another one with their product on atopic dermatitis, and again, really saw a lot of improvement there. So they did that with a boarded dermatologist. So really good evidence all around.
It's pretty crazy if you think about, like, again, this supplement, we're talking about skin and joints. Like, what percentage of dogs, I don't know the answer to this question, but I mean, like, probably the 2 most common things we see, right, are osteoarthritis and skin problems.
Yeah, all dogs have skin. All dogs have joints. They may not have fur, but they have skin.
Exactly.
And we see a lot of those cases.
So that's why it gives like I said, the whole thing, like this pet every pet should be on, especially dogs should definitely be on this stuff because it's so helpful for those major things. So
yeah.
And then I think we talked about skin, kidney, heart, and we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah. And so recommended versus therapeutic intake, that's really, and I think a lot of the dosing comes down to individual tolerance.
Yeah.
Because some dogs don't tolerate an omega-3 supplement, which is, in those cases, you want to give it with a prescription diet, but not all of them have to be kibble. There are some whole food prescription diets. I believe Just Food for Dogs has one for mobility. Right. And but therapeutic diets, they may tolerate that high omega more than if you were to just add it to their food or give it to them, because they'll get soft stool, they'll get a little bit nauseous.
And just remember too, when you're starting to supplement, it's like, let's say we decide our dose should be 50 milligrams per kilogram, right? Which is fine. I don't know what we're treating, just for sake of argument, but you have a dog with a sensitive stomach. Well, maybe not start with 50 mg per kg. Start with like 10. Again, this is not a sprint. It's a marathon. We want to make sure we slowly increase their tolerance, and also I don't want to be the guy who gets yelled at because our dog has diarrhea. And
I know, it's like we're doing something good, and by the way, your dog has diarrhea now, and
you're welcome.
So yeah, that's kind of a good dosing range, right? Like we talked about the 50 to 100, and then there's some literature out there that kind of breaks it down. Dr. John Bauer did a lot with omega-3s, and he breaks it down via condition and dosing, and I think that's really important. But like you said, start low and build up, because you may have the target of 50 mg per kg. You might not get there because a dog has soft stool.
Yeah, and then if they do have soft stool, there are things we can do like fiber supplements, etc., probiotics. So if we deem that it's really important for this dog to get a high dose, maybe it'd be okay to give this dog some probiotics or probiotic fiber or clay or psyllium or whatever else, and sometimes that helps as well. But at the end of the day, each dog is different, and we do what we can do. But yeah, so that dosing, I mean, what do you, for OA, for example, what is your target that you usually go for and tell people to do?
I'll do that 50 to 100 mg per kg range if I'm not doing it based on the metabolic body weight, which is kgs to the 0.75. But
which isn't that hard to do, by the way, on your Apple.
Thing it'll say right there. Colorado State University, the vet school, has a really lovely chart with all of the breakdown, because I think dosing is really important, not only for tolerance, but also, like we'll talk about a little bit later, there's been studies that show delayed wound healing. If you're on high omegas, you need inflammation to heal. It's been shown to interfere with bleeding and clotting. Platelets. So, more is not better. So I think that's really important to take into account. So we know we've been talking a lot about evidence-based and touching on different studies, but multiple studies, so osteoarthritis and joint disease, we've seen improved mobility and reduced pain. The effects were comparable to non-steroidal anti-inflammatory anti-inflammatory actions.
So cool.
Yeah, so I think that's really important. Chronic kidney disease, it reduces protein loss in the urine, improved kidney blood flow, and then it slowed the disease progression in experimental models, which again, a lot of this extrapolates to humans as well. Cardiac disease that we touched on, it reduces inflammatory cytokines like that interleukin-6, improved cachexia and appetite. Cachexia is weight loss and muscle loss because of an underlying disease, so these guys get really thin. Reduced arrhythmias in certain breeds, and then again, atopy and allergic skin disease, so reduced itching, self-trauma because they're chewing, licking, coat damage, and then cancer. Cancer is such a big one. Longer disease-free intervals and survival times in some studies.
Right. Yeah, some, especially lymphoma, right, has been shown to be really helpful with omega-3s. But all of that stuff, combined, if I look back at my papers here, we have we got skin, we got kidneys, we have cardiac, we have allergic skin disease, cancer. At the end of it, all of it ties together too with quality of life. If you just look at that in particular, so there was a study with quality of life scores and pain in dogs, in a study of over 16 weeks, and dogs were given 70 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA per kilogram of body weight. And that's kind of right in the middle, because we usually go 50 to 100. And their Omega index score rose from 1.3 to 3.3, and notably pain scores declined and significantly in the smaller to medium dogs, but quality of life scores improved too. And so very important to look at that. So that's what the authors concluded, about boosting the EPA and the DHA in dogs on standard commercial diets may provide real health benefits. So that's what we're looking for, right? Is quality of life in our dogs and overall health. You know, so
I think that's really important. And we'll talk about cats because they're a totally different study. And then after we talk about some of the dosing, we should talk a little bit about the testing, because you just, if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
And you have to get some baseline and then monitor.
Right.
Yeah, so cats, the benefits are promising, but we have some limited data. Cats aren't studied as much, and they're much more sensitive to omega-3s. So the therapeutic dosing, we do know that there's no officially established safe upper limit for cats, but research shows that when cats receive more than 75 milligrams per metabolic body weight, problems can start to appear, and that can look like potential immune suppression at higher doses. You think of it as being positive for the immune system, but if you do too much, platelet dysfunction, so their blood may not clot normally, and it should just be used cautiously and under veterinary supervision. So there is no official safe upper limit for cats, but sticking to the 2.5 milligrams per metabolic body weight of the kilograms to the higher power of 0.67 is a good range. Again, starting low. We don't need messy litter boxes here. But they can benefit as well. And I think something important to be said is the individual companies on the dosing that they recommend is a good starting point.
Right.
And maybe not off the bat looking at the back of the bottle and making sure it's veterinary specific, right?
Right.
Not using human ones, because they put all these like flavors and all this other stuff that dogs and cats just don't need.
Right.
We don't need them either. But I think that's a good starting point, and maybe starting at like half that and then building up as tolerated would be a good starting point, and then talk to your veterinarian for dosing.
Yeah, and cats, we've always been taught cats, of course, are not small dogs, and their liver metabolism is a lot different than our dogs and cats, and so metabolizing those omega-3s are a little different for them. But I think the big thing we look at is their GI issue and their platelet issue, so we don't want to cause them to start having bleeding or anything like that. So go slow in cats, but it's still important in cats for sure. Yeah,
and then some evidence-based benefits in cats. We talked about the arthritis study, but dermatitis and inflammatory skin diseases, it can be very beneficial for that. Possibly chronic kidney disease, suggested but not proven that there's survival benefits, and then neurologic and cognitive health. So again, really a lot of different things in cats that can be beneficial, but testing. You want to touch on that? Because it's so important, and I just don't think anybody does it.
Yeah, I mean, we do it, of course, but I think, I think your functional medicine doctors will do it, right? Because I will tell you that, what percentage of dogs do you see are on omega-3s?
Right.
All of them?
Everybody.
Yeah, pretty much. Especially for what we do, we're going to see a lot of these dogs who are who the owners are saying we're giving omega-3s. Well, how often are you giving it? What are you giving it? What brand are you giving?
Right.
The dose, etc. But there is testing out there, and so like Varco just said, if you don't test, you don't know. And I would probably say a minimum of 60% of the dogs, and probably even up as high as 80%, that people are giving omega-3 fatty acids to are not at therapeutic levels when we do the testing. So.
And they're tolerating it fine, so we have some room to go.
So we do have room, because they're already getting it. Now, if they're not getting it, then I pretty much guarantee they're low. So, but it's just fascinating to me that before I started testing, I just kind of wrote it off. Oh, they're already giving omega-3, so they're fine. But it's not. It's not. I mean, it's so often the case that it's not true. So, testing omega-3s, and unfortunately, omega-3 fatty acid testing is not part of a normal blood panel.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about what tests that are out there and how do we use them?
Yeah, there's some variable ones, but the IFATs, the inflammatory fatty acid target score, and the omega quant are two really good ones, and it lets us know. It's a really nice graph, and it says, like, are you in the optimal range? Do you need more? Are you giving too much and you have to back off? Because let's say, you know, somebody's giving their dog sardines every day and an omega-3, because the sardines are a good treat, and their food is like a fish base. That's a lot of omegas.
Right.
And for the people, we talked about this, a lot of people say, well, I'm giving my dog sardines every day. That's great, but you don't really know how much they're getting. We can't dose effectively, so I think it's really important to do supplementation. Like if you want to give some sardines because it's yummy for them.
Well, before this podcast too, I was looking up, well, because this happens all the time. Well, I feed sardines. Okay, do you do it every day? And how big is your dog? Because when I was looking at sardines, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was average somewhere between 1,500 and 2,500 milligrams of DHA, EPA combined per can.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
That's and
a lot of sardines.
I was just thinking a lot of sardines and calories too, right?
And calories.
So anyways, and that's fine, you know, to give that. But and if that's what you're doing, if you're literally giving that as part of your pet's diet, you just test to see where it is. The tests aren't crazy expensive, but
and most of them are like a drop of blood. It's really, really easy. Exactly. I've had my omega-3s and 6 tested, and, you know, there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, I haven't had mine tested. I'm a little afraid. But I got to get mine tested soon, too. But, so for the dogs, definitely get it tested. And then, like I said, I say most of them are in the suboptimal range. I haven't had one that was over, maybe one, I don't remember, but it's rare. It's not too often I'd say, okay, cut back on that. But if you are feeding, as you said, a fish-based diet, and you snack on sardines and anchovies and whatever, you're noshing on some cod livers.
Oh my god.
That could be an issue. So, but then when you supplement, though, then give it at least 3 months before you retest. So it's 3 to 4 months is the optimal range.
Yeah, you need it to like get into that cell membrane, and that takes time.
Right.
And it takes every day. It takes consistency. So we talked about this in a previous episode on supplements, and we talked about quality.
Oh my gosh.
Because that's so important. Just like human supplements, the source matters. There's contaminants, oxidation, poor quality, and that can reduce efficacy. Yeah. I try to stay away from salmon-based because they are such a big fish and they have a longer lifespan that they accumulate mercury.
Right.
So unless you know the company that is doing the fish oil is testing for all of these different heavy metals and pesticides, I would stick to the smaller fish, like you were talking about, sardines and anchovies and all the little guys. And people worry a lot about oxidation and their supplements becoming rancid, and that's a very valid concern.
Yeah.
And we have like really fun ways, like you want to do the sniff test.
Yeah, well, if it smells fishy, it's probably bad.
Yeah, you don't want it. You don't want your fish to smell like fish.
No, and if you burp afterwards and it just tastes fishy, or your dog burps afterwards, then it's bad.
Yeah,
you know. So purity is
so important.
So many of them. What did you say that was 45% or something in one study?
At least, that they were already oxidated and rancid, and you want to keep it in an airtight container in the refrigerator without light. And even though the expiration date might say it's fine, if it's showing you signs of being rancid, then I would just toss it. It's not
worth it. Yeah, and that's another thing too, is if your supplement that says it doesn't need to be in the refrigerator after opening, then just put it in the refrigerator.
Yeah, put it in the fridge.
And it needs to be in a light blocking bottle, so it's either going to be in an amber color, in a blue bottle, or maybe even a metal container.
Yeah. But glass tends to be the best.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. So I mean, just remember, quality and quantity is important. So, yeah, we get too many of those ones, and I wonder sometimes too if those people who are giving the fish oils and they're still low, is it because they're not good fish oils?
Right. Did it oxidize and it's
Right.
not?
Or they're just not giving enough. I don't know, because I'm never going to be able to find out. But anyway.
I guess we'll never know.
We'll never know.
You're going to lose sleep tonight over that.
There's enough other things in the world for me to lose sleep over. It's not going to be that one.
Yeah, I think this is such an exciting supplement because it really does do so much for so many conditions. And, you know, obviously more isn't better. It comes with risks. And,
Yes.
you know, talk to your veterinarian because it's such a wonderful supplement. And if it's something that you think your dog or cat should be on, just talk to them, get a dose, get a recommended product. There's so many products out there. We can't keep track, so we really try to stick to the ones that are evidence-based, third-party tested, that we know the quality and the reputation of that company, and dosing and everything is clearly indicated on there.
Yeah, and you know, you talk to your veterinarian if you have a good relationship with them, so you can discuss, you know, what they recommend. I'm going to say what I usually recommend is there's either Nordic Naturals, which I know that company is really good.
Yeah, they're great.
And again, the dog version, the human version, they usually put lemon in, and dogs probably don't like a lot of lemon too much.
Lemony fish. And actually, people put lemon on their fish.
I love lemon on my fish, but not my fish oil.
No.
And then another supplement I like a lot is VRS. They make a good fish oil. So those are the two I personally recommend.
Same.
There's a ton of different ones out there, and your veterinarian may recommend something different. And then do remember, like we were just talking about with the potentials of the risks, for example. So it is commonly recommended to stop fish oil supplementation, 48 to 72 hours before surgery, because the chance of potential platelet dysfunction and increased bleeding. So, especially if it's a major surgery, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Make sure that we don't need to add one more complicating factor to everything else. So, just be careful with that.
And I think a question we get a lot is, you know, can I use omegas if my dog has a fish allergy?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
And fish oils, with the possible exception of some cold pressed fish oils, are free of peptides, which is the component that is the allergen in the diet. So it is safe to feed fish oils to animals with a fish allergy, but again, always check with your veterinarian and make sure, you know, a lot of the labels will say hypoallergenic and things like that, but if they come in like a capsule, a lot of those will be beef gelatin. So if your dog also has a beef allergy, but it's a hypoallergenic fish oil, you should be able to cut the capsule open and put that on the food. You don't have to give them the whole capsule. So just something important to note, because some people may be like, well, my dog can't have fish.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, for most of these veterinary diets for dogs who have skin problems, almost all of them have fish oil in it. So it should give you some comfort that if they're making diets for skin problems and they have fish oil in it, that, you know, it's going to be okay even if you have allergies, because, you know, dogs can't have allergies to. So the oils aren't the issue, it's the proteins, etc. So not going to be the problem there.
Yeah. So when in doubt, just ask your veterinarian. I think that's a great source.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I think the next thing is that. Is that what we wanted to cover on this fish oil topic?
Yeah, I mean, we just hammered through it.
But yeah, so it's so many benefits. I just feel like, you know, with this fish oil in particular, it's almost like a panacea supplement.
I know.
You know, if you can tolerate it, your GI can tolerate it, work up slowly. I mean, brain health, kidney health, skin health, heart health, cognitive functions, whatever, neurofunctions. I mean, like, why not, right?
Yeah. And there's, you know, people are afraid to give their dogs with pancreatitis fish oil and stuff like that too. Again, talk to your veterinarian, because just because they've had pancreatitis does not mean they can't have fish oil. We've seen studies where it's actually been beneficial. So when in doubt, talk to your dog or cat's veterinarian. But I think it's such a great supplement.
Yeah.
Get your levels tested. What are you doing? Get your levels tested.
I know. I gotta get all my levels tested. So I gotta get my vitamin D3 tested. Everything else, I'm just a little behind right now, but I will. Don't beat me up.
Okay.
Jeez.
Well,
But yeah, so fish oil. Do it.
fish oil.
That's
Do
it.
it. That's it.
It's
You
all
can
done.
still enjoy your sardines and anchovies, but take your fish oil.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Hopefully you learned something.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.